another instructional video for you. Today, we're gonna teach you how to take out a faucet and replace it with a new one. Tired of this faucet, and yeah, you can just replace the cartridges, but I hate this thing. It does nothing but leak. We're gonna replace this bathroom faucet and show you how to do that and the steps that I take. First steps, I got a little light there, just a little power supply light, and you gotta turn off the water. Which means you have to come underneath the sink, and you have these little knob things. These might be kind of stuck because they haven't turned in a while. Righty-tighty makes it so that you turn the water off. I also seem to have a little bit of a leak right here coming down from the drain, so we'll fix that too. Pretty much that probably means that this isn't sealed that well, or the seal's basically busting out on it. If you have a problem with turning these, you can take a pair of pliers and just kind of put it in the middle and just twist it just a little bit back and forth. Don't go nuts on it. Just make it loose so that way you can then get it with your hand and tighten it down with your hand. You could also try to use some vinegar if there's a little corrosion back there, but it will turn. Just don't force it, or else you could have problems and break that, and then you have to go turn off the main water supply and get a plumber here to fix the piping. Bring it righty-tighty to close the water valve here at the sink. Once you close those water shutoff valves below the sink by turning them to the right again, you just want to open up the water and make sure that nothing's on, so that way you know it's totally closed. Our next step to dismantling this is just taking off this little drain control right here. They didn't leave a lot of space between the water inlet pipe and the actual drain control here, but we just pull it off anyways. You just basically slide it right off. Sometimes there's a screw that you have to unscrew to get that off, and then this will move up and down, and that's your main drain. You can tell they didn't put this in that well because this is moving around freely. Look at that. That's not good. And the next step after that is to basically get these off of the old faucet. This is the supply lines. You want to turn these and loosen them off. We already know the water's off because we already tested it, so we're going to get this off. I'm going to use this adjustable wrench, which I already adjusted, and we're going to twist this until it comes off. All right, finally got it. We just put it on here, and I twist it that way. And now that it's loose, I'm going to take my hand and unthread it from the rest here, so that way there's no risk of stripping threads or anything. Pull slightly down, and you might have water come out, so you might want to put a bucket underneath. Just wanted to show you that, but that's just the leftover water in the valve there. That's not coming out of here. And again, we tested the water just to make sure of that. We're gonna do the other one on the other side as well, which is over here. Same thing, just the hardest thing is getting a tool back there. Repeat the step we did here over there. The other thing you might want to do, it's hard to get in there with a wrench from this side, so I'm going to take this drain off. I have a flathead screwdriver, and I'm going to take off this drain stick here. I just have to put it in there, loosen it up, and then take this piece off, and you can pop it right up the top. So like I said, this just slides right off, and then you can just basically pop that right up by pushing it up, and it'll come out the top of the faucet. So we got both of these bolts off. Just going to slide down. And we're not going to pull this out because we're going to basically loosen these two things up next, these black discs. That's what holds the faucet to the sink. And then this will lift right up after we get these off. And then we'll have space to put in our new faucet. I'm going to take a hammer with a screwdriver and just try to move this without breaking it. Wish me luck. There we go. And that's coming off. Yay. It's loose enough where you can get it by hand. It will come off. Just gotta take some time. There we go. There we go. It's starting to come off. There we go. All right, so you just gotta loosen it up. Again, the hammer with the screwdriver trick helps. And then after that, just do it by hand, just like that. And now this side of the faucet's off. We just have to get this one. I'm gonna repeat the same thing on the other side with a screwdriver and hammer, a couple pliers, figure it out, and get that thing off. All right, got both retainers off. They'll fall down onto the pipe or whatever you got for a water supply. Just leave them there for now. You'll take them off after you get the faucet out. And the next step is to get the faucet up and out of the sink. So we dismantled everything below. We just took that thing off. We're gonna yank this out of there. Now, On these sinks, they might have used what we call plumber's putty to get underneath there. A lot of the newer sinks, faucets I mean, they come with this retainer already so that you don't have to use plumber's putty. It's pretty useful. In fact, that it still does the same job. It seals around and doesn't let water get underneath and stuff like that. But on these older ones, they kind of are a pain when they use the plumber's putty. And what you have to do is you kind of have to very carefully just pry underneath at the plumber's putty. I use a flathead screwdriver and a hammer. I'm just gonna be really, really careful so I don't chip anything here. I'm just gonna try to wedge it between the counter and the faucet. It's been a while since they installed this. This house is from 2000, so these have been installed since 2000. Still really underneath it. I'm just gonna pry up just slightly. And you can see that it doesn't take much. It's gonna move a little bit. And it's gonna look pretty yucky underneath. But that's all the old plumber's putty and stuff like that. You just wedge it out of there. You just gotta be really careful when you first do the things there. Now, everything's detached. So this is your faucet coming right out. Again, you got the plumber's putty. And you might say that there's some discoloration there. There's not much you can do about that. In fact, it even took a little bit of the porcelain with it, but it's okay because the new one's gonna fit on there and be fine. This comes right off. If I get like a putty knife, or even just a screwdriver, just be really careful. We're gonna chip all this old plumber's putty off next. And this is how you get rid of the plumber's putty. So, okay, the yellowing of the counter, by the way, is because they use this oil in the plumber's putty. You can buy plumber's putty that is non-staining and it won't do this, but you gotta put it on there the first time you put it on, or else it's going to stay in the counter. It's just that the oil leaks into the counter over time. They say that you could use acetone, stuff like that, to try to get it off. But I'll be honest with you, it's really hard to get it off after it's already seeped in, because it's seeped in there for years. So just do your best, get what you can off of there. If you want to use acetone, they also say that you can use rubbing alcohol, try to get it off that way, but usually you don't get 100% of it off. When you do buy a faucet, you have to understand that there are certain spacings. If you go to Home Depot, Lowe's, they'll have the different sizes. I believe this is called 4 inches because it's 4 inches between the two valves. Again, I like to do a dry fit before I do anything here, so we get to see what the new one's gonna look like. But this is not gonna cover up that yellow stuff altogether. So we'll have to see what I can do. But whatever faucet you buy is pretty much gonna come in directions, and they're pretty much the same thing. You're gonna place it in there. You're gonna have the retainers underneath. You'll have some type of gasket there. If there's no gasket, you're gonna use plumber's putty. I recommend using the one that doesn't stain, so that way, you know, if anyone ever wants to do this in the future, they won't have the same problems. You're gonna go into the sink, put it through there, and then connect the water lines and just make sure everything's good before you turn it on. This is probably the hardest part, is the drain that we're gonna have to replace. This is a push and seal one too, so it's a little different. Okay, so you're gonna dry fit it, make sure it's all the way down, and then we're gonna go underneath the sink and we're gonna mount it to the bottom of the sink and go from there. Now we still have these old retainers from the old sink, so all we're gonna do is we're gonna move the pipe just slightly. Don't just pull them right off. 1 and 2. Put it on there, just have them on there, ready to tighten down the faucet to the sink. Next step is to line up the water inlet to the faucet, and then we're going to take the retainer, we're going to start screwing it on. So we got the retainers on there finally, and now it's just hand tightening them till they're flush and the faucet will stay down on the top. But this is again, one of the harder jobs because you got to get back here. It's not easy space. I like that they give you 4 prongs to push off of on this. That's also sweet. Just alternate until you tighten them down. I'm going to do that, and then we'll show you the next step. Next step is to reconnect the water lines. However, they do tell you to flush the lines. There's 2 ways of doing this. You can do it the way they told you, which is get a bucket and open up the things and, you know, risk not being able to close them right away and water's going everywhere. Or you can take the aerator off and just flush it out for about 30 seconds. So I'm probably gonna do the aerator. That's depending on the faucet too, because there are different ways of taking out aerators. The old way, you just unscrew them. Some of them need adapters. This one just needs like a coin or a screwdriver, and you just very carefully turn it left and out. So we're gonna flush it out of the aerator after I hook up the water. We're just gonna hook up the 2 nozzles back onto the bottom here, as you see right here. And that's pretty much what you do to connect the water supply. We're going to use our adjustable wrench to make sure it's nice and tight on there. Make sure that the water inlet's going right into there. And then you're going to take this bolt right here, just thread it by hand, and screw it to the faucet on the underside here. And then we'll take our wrench after and just really tighten them up and make sure they're really on there, compression fit basically on there, so that no water leaks out. The water's still off though, so you're gonna have no problems there. All right, I got on there with my hands, just take my wrench, righty-tighty this until it's tight, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. And then we'll flush out the system by taking the aerator off. Just make sure that these nuts are really compressed on there. Not overly tightened, but enough so that water is not going to leak out. There has to be a compression point between the faucet and that nut right there. So the next step is to basically flush the system out. We're going to take the aerator off first, then we're going to come here, and then we're going to turn on the water supply after. On this aerator model, there's that little point in the middle there. I'm going to put a screwdriver there and just loosen it out lefty-loosey. Just took the aerator out of there just by loosening it up. I'm going to put it to the side. Do not lose that. You got to put it back in. I'm going to turn the water on underneath, and then we're just going to let the water run out of the hot and cold. Lefty-loosey on the water. You want to make sure that basically nothing leaks down here while you're doing this. If it does, immediately turn it off and retighten everything. But it looks like everything's working. Aerator's out. Drain is not open. And I already took the old drain out, so we're gonna just pop it up here the best we can. And if that doesn't work, by the way, come underneath, and all you're gonna do is, this would probably be towards the back, by the way. This is just really bad workmanship here. I'm gonna angle it down, and then it's gonna lift that up. I'm just gonna let the water run. Usually there's nothing in here, but it does help to flush the pipes a little bit. That's the cold water. Now the hot. I'm just going to reinstall the aerator by putting it in here. Righty-tighty. And we'll get the screwdriver to make sure it's all the way in there. And then we're on our way. We have to replace the drain next, which is, it's pretty bad down there. To take out the drain, you have to unscrew some things, but this is already unscrewed. That's how bad it was in there. And I'm glad I caught it. Doesn't seem like there's any plumber's putty underneath. I could be mistaken. But you'd basically get underneath the sink and you'd loosen this up. You get a wrench and loosen that up, and then it would basically be just twisting it out and it would fall out of the sink. After that, you're gonna lift this out to the best of your ability and get it loose. Again, you might have to do like the faucet. You might have to put a screwdriver in there, get a hammer, and get the plumber's putty out, because oftentimes there's plumber's putty underneath this to seal it up with the sink. Now that we got this loose, this pipe is loose in here. This is a compression fixture. You're just gonna loosen it up by hand if you can. Oftentimes you have to get a wrench and just wrench it a couple times. But if it's already loose like that, you're good. And here's the other thing that you might run into, like I did. When I did my sink downstairs, they obviously did the plumbing for the house first before they put in the sinks. This should have been better. They should have put this supply line a little bit further away from this pipe and stuff. There's nothing I can really do about that, so we just have to work what we got. But even this, we're supposed to be able to lift this out. And if I lift it up, it's like they put too much of the out pipe up here. So what we could do, and what I had to do downstairs, is I got a hacksaw and I cut off this drain because I'm not going to reuse it. That's the way I would do it if you can't get it out. If you can just lift this up and get it out of there, you're going to be pretty fine to do that. And I mean, I don't mind breaking some things here because, again, I am replacing this with a brand new one. Loosening it up, this pipe will drop down, and then we're going to lift it out of there if we can. If not, I'm going to have to get a hacksaw or something and just cut into this. Electric saws work wonders on this, by the way, so that way you're not like hacksawing it to death with your own hand. And we're going to get this pipe out of there. I got lucky on this one. I banged it around up there, and it's still attached to the sink, so I'm going to have to cut over here to get this off. But this pipe should come out eventually if I can just move this over. So again, this can get a little hairy, and this is what they don't tell you in the directions to installing a sink if you already have one in there. Maybe cut this thing off, see what I can do, get it out of there, and we'll go from there. So we'll have to see. And once I get the drain out, we'll be all set to install the new one, which is going to be way easier. You've got the drain out. Now, typically what happens here is this piece you would unscrew while the top stays there. The problem is that the plumber's putty that they did put on deteriorated over time, and I had to get my wife to hold that while I unscrewed this. You just turn it to the left and it comes out. I was lucky that this piece, which was down in the pipe, that's what gets it down there, that was already corroded off this major part, because if not, you might have to hacksaw it out of there, or if you can jimmy it up there and just get it out of there, that's typically how you want to do it. But these pipes get tough when they're up this high, and again, you can't really cut these pipes. This is up to code. This is a trap here so the sewer gases don't come up. The water gets trapped here, and that way the sewer gases stay where they're supposed to be. So loosen it up, see if you can get it out. If not, you might have to hacksaw it out a little bit. Don't destroy any of this. And also, don't lose the compression fitting, because you're going to need that when you put the new one in there. As far as the drain up here, once it's disconnected on the bottom, you can just lift it out. It's not going to come out this easy usually. There was plumber's putty here at one point, so you might have to get out there and get rid of the plumber's putty like you did on the faucet, and then just pull it up after that. But it also broke off down there, but I don't really care because we're replacing this whole thing. So if it's really stuck in there, it's just attached to the pipe underneath. And we're going to clean this out, and then we're going to install the new drain. Things before you install a drain. Sometimes it needs plumber's putty. Sometimes it does not need plumber's putty. This comes with a washer instead, so we don't need to use any. If you do use plumber's putty, try to use the non-staining one, because if you ever want to do this, 20 years later after you bought a house and you want to change up the faucets, you don't want that yellow stain to be there by the non-staining one. And pretty much we're just going to thread it through like it says, screw it down from the bottom, make sure that it's connected to the drain. That's going to be the hardest part. And then we're going to screw down the compression point after we attach it to the sink, and then we should be pretty much done. So these pieces were not needed. These go underneath the sink, and you want to make sure you have this washer in this, and that's going to go down the main sink right here. And again, we're going to have to see what's going on down there, but we're going to push that down. Now down here you have your compression nut. You want to loosen that up, make sure it's loose, let the drain go through it, and then go all the way down. But the other thing is you want to get the other parts of the drain, which are these and the nut below. So we're going to worry about attaching this to the sink first, then we'll worry about the plumbing, but we have to see what we can do to make sure that this goes in this hole at the same time. Here's how it should look. You have the drain come down. We have the parts ready to screw in to attach to the sink there. And we're going to let the drain pipe just flow on down past the compression nut and into the main drain. And again, having two hands helps, I won't lie. So I'm going to make sure I push that drain pipe all the way down, and then I'm going to start tightening this up. No tools required on this one, which is pretty sweet to see. And then last we'll do the compression nut here. On this model drain, by the way, it's a push drain. So you push it from the top and it walks down. But we just had to tighten this up, righty-tighty, making sure all the washers go there. I got the compression nut there, and everything works great now. So that's how you install a new faucet on a sink. And I just have to clean up now. So, that's it. Not the easiest thing all the time. Depends on your setup and everything, but it does work. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, please give us a thumbs up and push that subscribe button below. While you're down there, also push on the bell notification icon so that we'll be notified of future Eric DIY video releases. We appreciate all the support. Thank you, and have a great day. As always, if you like this video, found it useful, please subscribe. And if you have a product that you would like reviewed, please contact Eric by emailing him at eric5150diy@gmail.com. Have a great day.